By 1976, Mahnaz's work for women's rights had earned her a place in the Shah's inner circle. When the Shah created the position of Minister of State for Women's Affairs, he offered it to Mahnaz.
I ran into someone and they said, "Oh, have you seen the international issue of one of the Iranian international papers?" And I said, "No." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because your sister's been named cabinet minister." And I said, "Okay, that changes everything." And I never called her. And I stopped talking to her.
I was very much conflicted. I didn't know whether I should accept or not. Does it work better if you're outside pressuring, or does it work just as well if you're inside pressuring? Should we or should we not? And finally, we decided that it's worth the experiment.
Are the old religious ways losing their force, or are they perhaps continuing to have a different type of force in Iran today?
Of course, there's a great deal of aggressive feeling, a great deal of fear of change. And of course, what I would like to point out is that this is not necessarily something which happens in Iran, or that's something which happens right now in Iran. That more or less it's a universal thing, that change, specifically in this area, always meets with a great deal of antagonism and aggression, especially if it happens too fast.
Under Mahnaz's leadership, Iran passed a family protection law that raised the legal marriage age of women from 15 to 18, gave women the right to divorce and custody of their children, and provided childcare in the workplace. The law rivaled the most progressive legislation found anywhere in the West. Many Iranian women took advantage of new opportunities. Some adopted Western tastes and habits. Viewing the changes as a plunge into decadence, the country's powerful Islamic clerics were outraged.
There were the conservative forces who didn't like what was happening, who didn't like my very visible position and the other women's very visible position. There was growing unrest. A large part of it had to do with the changes in the position of women.
In 1978, Iran descended into civil war. Opposition to the Shah's regime now included leftists, middle-class moderates, as well as Islamic fundamentalists. The Shah responded with further repression. The crisis deepened. Militants began assassinating members of the Shah's cabinet. On November 27th, Mahnaz was in New York for a meeting at the United Nations when she received a phone call from Iran. The clerics, she learned, were accusing her of warring with God. She could not go back.